Hey Neppers, it's me, Wild Neptune, and today, in Epic 7, talking about the new 3-star heroes coming out very soon. Go over the kits, will they be good, if they'll be good, and of course, some aesthetics. Before that though, I would appreciate it if you please give this video a like, hit that subscribe, leave a comment, and consider following me at Twitch at twitch.tv/WildNeptune. Okay, on to the units. And first up will be Young, I believe is how they say it. She is a light knight, so she's going to be in the Moonlight summon. Also, covered in summons if you get lucky. Her stats are right here, so knight, speed, low attack obviously. Bulk is okay. It's very even between health and defense, which is not always common. A lot of the times, it'll be like one of them will be much higher than the other one, but pretty even for both of them. Attack, release, and health concentration. The skill 3 is Battlecry. It is a 5-turn 4 with the skill ups. Remember, 3 stars just use Stigma and of course the Catalyst. The Soul Burn is extend durations buff by 1 turn, and the buffs are increase speed and immunity for 2 turns for your party. So the Soul Burn will make that 3 turns. An okay buff. A lot of things give immunity. It's a buff. Skill 2 is Assault Coordination. So what it does, after attacking 4 times, this is a passive by the way, grants a barrier to all allies for 2 turns and increase combat readiness by 15%. I believe the CR is for herself. Barrier strength increases proportional to the target's max health. So the target means the allies that are being buffed, which is all allies. And then of course the skill enhance is just the barrier strength. The S1 is Bludgeoning Slash. So what this does, it will attack the enemy with a 75% chance to increase defense for 1 turn, and if it's used on the caster's turn, will activate Dazzling Slash as an extra attack, but only if the caster is buffed, and Dazzling Slash is just an extra bonus attack, which will inflict Restrict for 1 turn. Now, this does count as 2 attacks, so it does have some synergy with the S2 here, so you can maybe get this off a little bit faster. Do keep in mind, though, that it only happens when it is the caster's turn, so even though something like Counterattack Set or Elbrus might be decent on this unit, it will not proc that bonus proc. Now, as far as where Young is going to be used, she definitely doesn't seem like a PvP unit. She definitely seems more like a PvE unit, and because she has the Restrict, she has that immunity on, she gives the barrier, she might be pretty good for a slow Cadiz, as immunity is good, so don't get stunned all the time. Cadiz is not immune to Restrict, if I recall correctly, and those barriers, well, a lot of the times, the freaking Cadiz boss will injure you, and maybe those barriers will stop the injury from happening sometimes. So if you don't have a good protector for your Cadiz hunt and you're not quite at the gear level to do a one-shot, maybe you will get lucky, or I guess unlucky depending on how you look at things, and get a Young, and you can build her up for the hunt. Next unit we'll look at is Hassal. She's a Dark Knight, and I really like her model. She has almost kind of a Korra ripoff, I would say, from Avatar. They could have, in my opinion, they could have made her maybe like a little bit darker, but again, Dark Knight, see right here, her overall stats, so decent bulk for a 3-star. Her speed is, a little bit low, but she's a knight, and most knights aren't going to be super fast. Defense, release, health, concentration, and the first skill we will look at is going to be her skill 2, Blade of Vengeance. So, when an enemy counterattacks, increase the combat readiness of the caster by 20%, and increase the fixed damage of Swift Cut, which is their S1, by 1,000, and this effect can increase 4 times to up to 4,000 bonus fixed damage. And this 20% will go up to 30% with the skill enhances, which is pretty nifty. So anytime a counterattack happens on the enemy team, so think Bellion, think Violet, think, well, anything running counter, she just gets a nice little zero boost here. And then she can S1 and do, 4k bonus damage, right? So not too shabby. The S3 is Punishing Strike. Attacks all enemies with a secret skill. Before increasing defense of all allies for 3 turns. So it's a 3-turn defense buff for everybody. And increases speed of the caster, her soul, for 3 turns too. So she's kind of slow, but the speed buff will get her, a little bit faster there. Damage increased proportional to the caster's max health. Probably not important for a knight, but a little nice thing to have. It is 6 turns though, which is a long time. 5 turns with the reduction. And as I said, the S1 is Swift Cut, and this is the skill that's being boosted by her passive, the S2. It will recover her health a little bit too. It doesn't really... Oh, here we go. It says, damage all the amount recovered increases proportional to the caster's max health, so that's how that works. The fixed damage only happens, though, when it's used on the caster's turn. So, unfortunately, you don't get the bonus damage on counterattacks. Maybe they think that's a little bit too good on a 3-star, especially considering that it could be just a free, 4k every counterattack with no, stat investments, which, it seems a little bit strong, right? But, it starts at 500, and will go up to 4,500 with the max procs. The soul burn is an extra turn, which, hey, maybe you get this, you do your 4,500 plus whatever the base damage she does is, and then you get the extra turn, and you just do it a second time. So, not the worst. And for her use cases, so Hassal definitely feels more like a PvP kitted unit. Whenever you see something like fixed damage, or good against counterattacks, PvP is what comes to mind. Unfortunately for her, her slot, the Dark Knight slot, or just a Knight slot in general, is very crowded with very strong units right now. So just for her slot, FCC, Cosette, and another 3-star, Pylus, who has a specialty change, who's also good against counterattack units, is also a Dark Knight. So, yeah, Pylus is, or Pilus, I don't actually know, is a lot more defensive, where her soul can maybe put out a little bit of pressure, but I'm not sure how much that is worth versus all the other stuff that Pilus, whatever, I'm gonna keep saying different ways, brings. So some testing is gonna have to be done based on that, but it is hard for her to find a slot, especially because there's just so many options that kind of do what she's gonna do too. Next up is Mui. He is a Ice Thief. See stats right here. Attack, release. He has effectiveness, concentration. Interesting though, because he has 0 base effectiveness, but, having this as an imprint versus maybe some other stuff could be kind of useful. He has decent speed. His overall stats are kind of like a little bit, it's kind of weird. He has okay speed, his attack is okay, his health is really high, his defense is trash. He has a little bit more crit chance, so a little bit of everything in his stat pool. So the S3 is on a fortune cooldown, 3 with the skill up, and Wind Cutter. So it's an AoE defense break with a 75% chance to defense break the enemy team for 2 turns. Will also increase his attack for 2 turns too after the fact. Soul Burn is for extra damage. Worth noting that this does not strip, so if you want to use this reliably, say in PvP, you will have to have a strip preceding this. The S2 is a passive, and it says after the foremost ally is attacked, so the front ally, counterattacks with Blade Flurry. And when all allies are Ice Elemental heroes, increases CR of all allies by 10%. So, only happens when you have a full team of ice units. Blade Flurry takes priority over a counterattack with a biggest skill. It can only be activated once every 2 turns. So, and with Blade Flurry, what it does, it attacks the enemy with a Sword Storm, decreasing attack for 2 turns. And the S1 is simply a small chance, 50% to inflict bleeding. Not much to say. Bleeding is kind of a meme debuff right now. And as for his use cases, like I said, probably looking at something like Expedition, where your front target is only one being attacked most of the time, unless it dies, of course. So you will always get your S2 passive going off. Also, maybe in some Wyvern teams, too, if you need a unit for that, because he does have the attack down, which should be decent as just having that debuff ready for that. Honestly, there are a lot of Wyvern units in the game already, and I'm not sure overall how helpful he would be versus his competition there. But in Expos, I can definitely see him being used, even in non-ice teams, simply because the bonus he gets for the 10% CR for the team is nice, but it's just kind of a bonus. It doesn't make or break his kit overall. So, Wyvern Hunt, Expos. Coming up next is Ort. She's a Earth Thief, and she has no stats anywhere, except for her speed is 125, so super fast, especially for a 3-star. And she has good crit chance at 35% base, attack release, and concentration. So what does this speedy unit do? Let's find out. Her S2, when the caster is at max health, at the start of the turn, grants Perception to the caster for 1 turn. And Perception gives you a 15% crit damage and crit chance buff. And because she is so fast and should take the first turn if you build her as a speedster, well, she can be at full health. So you pretty much guarantee to get this. If the caster has Perception, when the enemy is not an elite or boss monster, so basically in PvP, increases attack of the caster for 1 turn and activates the same skill as an extra attack. Effect after attacking can only be activated once every 2 turns. And the skill up makes it, well, every turn instead. So basically every turn you get a bonus attack as long as you're at max health, which honestly will probably only happen on your first turn, unless you do something like a meme like Wind Rider or something like that, or another thing that can give you stealth, but that's basically how that works. The S3, no mercy for the weak. So it penetrates defense of the target, single target, by 30%, and when the speed of the caster is greater than the speed of the target, penetrates increased proportional to the difference up to 70%. So, if you hit a really slow target, it will penetrate even more of the defense. So think of how unit like Straze works, only with speed instead. I almost think there's another unit that does something like this too with something else, like Irvalin, I think does something like this, right? The cooldown is very long. It is 6-5 with the skill up. The soul burn for 10 souls is increases to 3 turns, so mine is 2 turns, which is okay. Honestly though, if you actually get to use this 2 times in a fight, your opponent probably did something wrong. So, and finally the S1, just a basic attack skill with damage increasing proportional to the caster's speed. And again, she is a very fast character. As for Ort's use cases, definitely going to be a PvP speed contest type unit with how high her base speed is. She's kind of a weird case though, where a lot of players just don't have the speed gear to make use of her, and a lot of the ones who do would rather use another alternative instead, like say an Assassin Sid, something like that. The benefit of Ort is that you don't need the molars for her. You just use the skill ups. But I definitely feel like players who have that gear level aren't going to mind too much putting some molars at least into just a Sid's S3 to get that kill damage off and stuff like that. So it might be a case where the free-to-play type players who might want to use this unit just don't have the gear to do it, and like those are the players who need more stand there and do something against cleave type units versus actually speed contesting, right? Remember, speed contesting is still very gear dependent overall. As far as her kill potential, a lot of it is going to have to rely on things like her multipliers and her damage. So stuff like that, if she's viable to actually snipe out an enemy, is going to need some testing, but very obvious what she's going to be used for, speed contest, even if, you know, maybe not everybody is going to actually be able to make use of that part of her kit. Last up, it is Januta, a fire warrior. So right here, see his stats. His speed is kind of low. He has pretty good attack though at 1144. His health is on the lowest side. His defense is okay. He does have a crit chance imprint right here, and he has a little bit bonus crit chance. So his crit chance is going to be pretty high, especially for a 3-star at base, which is very nice, as that means more stats in other places for you. His S3, Shatter. Oh, here we go. I'm like, where's the cooldown? Consumes 100 fighting spirit. So he's a fighting spirit user, and attacks the enemy, decreasing speed for 2 turns before increasing his attack for 2 turns too. And when the caster is enraged, this will ignore ER, and the soul burn will just increase the damage for. S2 is Ruler of the Prairie. This is the passive. After an ally is attacked, so any ally, gains 10 fighting spirit per ally attacked. So this means if everybody's attacked, he gains 40. And I believe whenever it says ally, it also means himself. And has a 25% chance to activate Hour of the Hunt. Hour of the Hunt can only be activated once every 2 turns. And this will go up to 35%. And what Hour of the Hunt does, increases speed of allies for 2 turns, so an AoE speed buff, and also make the caster be enraged for 2 turns. Finally, his S1 is Rapid Strike. Is just a basic attack, and when the caster is enraged, it does some bonus damage. Now, as for his use cases, definitely a PvP styled unit as a bruiser. I would have liked to see maybe a little bit more crowd control or a couple other things in his kit. His role is very crowded with a lot of units right now. Bruisers are pretty common, and a bruiser that does something like him, Fire Ken, is not really good right now, and his kit reminds me a lot of Fire Ken's. So unfortunately, I would have to say that he's probably not going to make that big of an impact, especially considering his competition, and that a similar unit to him hasn't really seen serious PvP play in quite a long time now. So unless he does like insane damage with his bonus damage because of the enrage, he's probably somebody who's gonna feel maybe a little bit lackluster, in my opinion. But of course, when we actually get him and we can test him out, we can also see how his damage he's gonna be dealing out. So that's it. Hope you guys are looking forward to these new 3 stars, and do keep in mind that they are 3 stars without specialty changes, so they're not intended to be the super high meta-breaking units or anything like that. They're gonna be units that are maybe a free-to-play player or a replacement for some more stronger, high-powered unit is gonna be. So do keep that in mind when you are evaluating if you want to build one or not. Remember again, no moles involved, just Sigma and some catalysts. Anyway, I'm Wild Neptune. It's been a good one. Nep out.